Hello and welcome to The Dirty Corner. This is episode 11. In this episode I'm going to be continuing the stories from other students. In the last episode I read statements from two young women who were dissatisfied with their experience. One who was complaining about the quality of the education and the lack of support from tutors and different aspects of her efforts to try and get a decent education, I suppose, or just decent experience when she was being pressured to go on campus. It was very interesting, but I also ended with a position statement or an artist statement. No, not a position. Yeah, an artist statement from another student who was talking about artist block, which I thought was quite interesting. If you haven't seen that episode, you can check that out here. That's the link. And I'm going to continue with this, but this one's going to be a bit more severe on the targeted bullying and intimidation side. So if this type of thing bothers you, then consider this a warning for the episode, for the content. And this episode is going to be called... Okay, so I'm going to start off by reading what the student's statement, because she wrote out an appeal against her grade, and I thought that would be a good place to start, to be honest. So let's see here. They are not in order. Let me open up this one. Okay, so let's start with I would like to appeal my final mark for Negotiated Studies 2, also known as the module that includes the university's degree show. This is due to circumstances that occurred on the opening night of the show and the remaining time that it was open. Having continuously monitored my results throughout the course, I knew the importance of the final module mark in order to achieve a first for my degree. Therefore, I went to great efforts to ensure the final module was at the required level. After taking advice from the tutors, I decided to produce a room that would create an atmosphere using glass prisms and light units along with music that I had personally made. There's a question mark there in case you're watching the video, and that's just because I think it was the structure of the sentence where it should be that I made personally, or I had made personally, I think it was. That I personally had made, or something like that. I think I personally had made. So that's why there was a question mark. This correlation was important to achieve the desired effect that I wanted to create. The light units were to be set on the light strobe setting to coincide with the beat of the music. I had a foundation platform built within the room with assistance from, and it's a name of someone who works at the university. Really nice person from the woodwork department. This was of great importance so that I could secure the glass prisms to a perfectly flat base. This would allow me to critically align the units to the correct angles to create the right projection and atmosphere within the room. My work focused on the idea of the human experience and how these experiences can be recreated. In this case, I was recreating the experience of enlightenment. I was provided with a small room for the location of the project, which would allow me to create... Excuse me while I load up the next one. Come on. Which would allow me to create a dark area for the lighting and atmospheric effect of the project, which was also synchronized with background music. This was created from wood and curtain structures. It was essential that each lighting unit had and laser was fixed with precision to cohesively interact with the other lighting units through several prisms to provide the overall artistic effect. Therefore, should just one unit not be perfectly positioned correctly, it would not achieve the final artistic results. This may all sound like, okay, I don't really get it, but if you will, take my word for it that this student was especially good at these kinds of effects, and it was someone who I could imagine would be able to work in the production of a film quite well, because the lighting and atmosphere that's required to create an environment in films is really important, and this student had that ability and natural talent, so, and just hard work as well, and understanding of what it took to make these things work. So that's what she's talking about in this. Having finished the project and after receiving good feedback from the tutor, the project was finalised and complete for the examiners board. We had a deadline for the degree show of Friday the 20th of May 2022, in which was also the degree show opening night. I achieved the deadline and was excited for the show to begin. However, unfortunately, due to the beginning of the opening night, despite having a warning sign requesting no admittance onto the stage area, a member of the public ignored the sign and decided to stand on the foundation platform. Unfortunately, their weight snapped the platform in half, and it says see attached photograph. This is where the lower part of the laser lighting display and several of the prisms were fixed. This meant that my degree show project did not line up with the other laser lighting unit, which required precision alignment. I'm going to stop there for a minute, and now I will show you the picture, and I'm going to discuss that after reading the rest of this statement. There's only a bit more, so bear with me. I then informed the tutors that I had to close off the display for the rest of the degree show night, as this would now require a new platform base. I was sent an email by one of the tutors on Saturday the 21st of May, see attached, which I don't actually have that, to confirm that the platform base would be fixed on Monday the 23rd. I returned to university on Tuesday the 24th to find that my platform base had not been touched and that my light units had run out of battery, so were not working. This is despite the fact that I had left instructions for how to replace the batteries within my installation. I also had left instructions on how to work the music on my iPod that I had left within the room, which had also not been turned on. During my stay on this day, I saw no tutors around campus, neither did I find the person in the woodwork workshop, who had apparently been told by the tutors that he was to fix the platform the day before. I left university feeling very confused and helpless, so I decided to return when I believed that there would be members of staff available. I returned to university on the 31st, which would be a week later, the day before our work was due to be the summative assessment. My stage had still not been fixed, and there were still no members of staff around to help me. Unable to contact the tutor, I could only try to carry out a repair to the platform myself. With no access to the woodwork department, I had no facility to look at making a new platform. I could therefore only look to carry out a less than acceptable repair. This was carried out by purchasing duct tape from a local shop to at least try and hold the platform together. However, the perfectly flat base platform required could not be achieved with tape alone, leaving a bend in the platform, so the repair was not successful, as the lighting and laser unit fixed to the base required precision alignment and interacted with the other lighting units mounted in the higher positions of the creation. This did not provide the overall effect, falling far short of my designed artistic effect of the project. Through no fault of my own, this went before the examination board the next day, in which I was not allowed to attend. After returning to the university on Monday the 13th of June to take down my work as instructed on our timetable, I checked my installation, which was obviously still not the original designed creation. I found that the iPod and speaker that was supposed to be used during my installation had run out of battery and were untouched. This also went against what I had written within my instructions next to the speaker, which stated that both iPod and speaker must be on charge when they are being used to prevent this from happening. Which would prevent this from happening. This also makes me believe that the music within my installation was not turned on for the examiner, and therefore not creating the atmospheric effect to coincide with the lighting creation during the evaluation of the project. Okay, now I know that was quite a lot, but it was someone who was obviously quite upset by the fact that they weren't going to get a decent grade, and leaving instructions for other people to do things on your project may sound like something which you should be doing yourself, but this is during the pandemic when a lot of students didn't want to come on campus, and they were told, if you leave clear instructions, someone will help you with it. They were also told that, yep, we're going to get someone to fix this, leave it with us, and they were completely unreliable, which jeopardized this person's mark and future in art making. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it happened to this person, and this video will explore why. That's the only long statement I'm going to read from the video. The rest will just be me telling you my recollection of this time. So let's get into it. Let's have a look at this platform where the lighting was and what it shows. Now when you look at this picture, I can see several different prints from shoes and boots and trainers on this platform, and it seems as though it wasn't just a couple of people who were walking or jumping up and down or dancing on the platform. It's quite likely that people were having a few drinks and someone got up on there, or a couple of people got up on there, and then other people danced and joined in. And that may seem like an innocent mistake where they didn't see the sign. Here's the reason why I think that's not the case, and you'll have to forgive me for being a bit conspiratorial at this point, but this is a student who was part of the group complaint, and they had this piece damaged, and or this piece was damaged, I should say, and on its own could have been an accident, but taking into the fact that she was part of the group complaint is just a piece of information where you can consider that when you think about this next image that I'll show you, which is another person who is part of the complaint who makes small ceramic sculptures. Here's an elephant. Lovely, very cute. Can't really tell how small it is there. You can get a bit of a sense that it's small, but it's really small. And these are tiny vases, like plant pots or something, just lovely. And here's what they end up like. Painted, tiny, beautiful, really nice pieces of work. As I said, this student was also part of the group complaints, and coincidentally their ceramic work was smashed. That's it there on the floor, and that was deemed as an accident by the student. She said it's possibly because it was on a table and someone moved the table, it came off. So okay, two coincidences. One is that the students had a few drinks and didn't realise that there was a sign saying don't go on the platform, and part of the exhibition was music playing, so they thought, well, music and the platform looks like a stage, let's go up and dance. And they did that, the platform broke, and then moving a table and this stuff slides off and breaks, another accident. So that's two people involved with the complaint. Now, someone who wasn't involved with the complaint but was previously called Studio Friend, the one in the disciplinary meeting with me, they had a finished painting damaged. Not had, but they found their painting damaged. That's the exit wound of their painting. It's another image of it, a bit clearer. Very large puncture wound through the painting, and this is the nail that was pushed through. Very large nail that was pushed through the painting. That was a finished painting and they were devastated, understandably so, that had happened. And then there was a third person who was part of the complaint, and his work wasn't vandalised, but I don't think he left it at this. I could be wrong, but I don't think he left it at the studio. Instead, he was intimidated by a tutor who came up to him and told him that what he was painting, he didn't have permission to paint because he hadn't asked the tutors to use their likeness. And he'd painted a picture with tutors in it, and it wasn't derogatory. But even if it was, let's just pretend that it was a derogatory painting. This is art school. This is a place where tutors should have a thicker skin and allow students to express how they feel, because that's the point of art school, is to explore your emotions through artwork, be experimental with your process and see what works and what doesn't, and really try to tap into something which will resonate with an audience and provoke a response. And this student had a tutor come up to them and say, "You don't have permission to use my likeness." And another tutor say, "You're not allowed to print things on t-shirts because that's what another student has done." And the other student was bully number one. And I just find it strange that these are the students who were victims of circumstance, let's say. I mean, what's the charitable interpretation? I think they were targeted because they were part of the complaint, because other students didn't have that problem. You know, it'd be one thing if it were just the platform was an isolated case, but the fact that the platform was damaged and then they were given no help all the way up to it being marked. They made that complaint letter that I read out at the beginning, and the response was that they were declined. They were unsuccessful in their appeal against their grade, so they were given a low grade. And as they said in the statement, they're now disillusioned with the art making process. They really had a bad experience there, and they said that they would spread the word to others not to attend that school because of how bad their experience was with the education and the lack of help. It's one thing to not have a good education, but it's another thing if the tutors just aren't there to help you. And that's not even mentioning the bullying, which she does briefly mention bullying, but not in detail. So that's what I think is too much of a coincidence for my liking, is the platform gets damaged, the ceramic work gets smashed, the student, older student, has a tutor approach and say that you're not allowed to do this, and another tutor approach saying you're not allowed to do that. And then the studio friend of mine, in the disciplinary meeting, having one of their finished paintings damaged with not only that really large nail, but they also found a big dent in the canvas, and they said that would have been a desk in the room would have been pushed into it. So someone pushed a desk into the canvas. And I think that probably was done first. Someone probably pushed a desk into the canvas and dented it. Well, actually, no, it was probably the other way around. Someone pushed a nail through it, and then they thought, how can we make this look innocent, and then pushed a desk into it because that could look like it was done. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process was, but yeah, horrible. And this wasn't the only targeting of students. As I teased in the last episode, I will be discussing physical and other harassment in the next episode after this one, because I've talked about it or mentioned it since the episode 1, and it will be in the next episode. And this one's just covering the physical damage done to students' work. I think it's horrible. I mean, I had my work splashed with paint when bully number 2 joined the studio, and bully number 1 and number 2 started being disrespectful of other people's work and studio space. And that's when I started taking all of my work out of the studio. And then we started locking down and doing things remotely. But to have this type of damage done to artwork is just unacceptable. Instances of targeted bullying. This was reported to tutors, each of these incidents, as you can tell by that appeal from the student whose email I read at the beginning, and the tutors just passed it off. The same with the nail going through the painting. The student was told how to fix it and said it must have been an accident, and the same with the ceramic work. So to me it's too much of a coincidence, because you didn't have other students say, oh, my work was damaged and my work was damaged. It wasn't. The student who was approached by two tutors, the older student who was painting and told that he wasn't allowed to paint the images he was doing, he also had some of his materials stolen, and when he reported it there was a half-hearted effort to investigate, and then he was just told, well, it must have just been thrown away. And he said there's no way that anyone there would have thrown away what he'd had stolen, because it was quite a fancy toolbox, and when you opened it, it was all quite new and expensive tools and materials, because he invested in good stuff, because he was doing the course and he wanted it to be high quality when he produced his work. And he'd also told me that he'd overheard bully number 2, I think he said, saying that that was his treasure chest or something, which was this space where the older student who I'm talking about, who had material stolen, where he'd stored his work, is in this place which the bully number 2 had said it's his treasure chest, which maybe it was bully number 1 actually. It was one of the two. Bully number 3 did, I think, more physical damage. I suspect it will have been bully number 3, who was an older woman, who did the nail through the canvas, because she targeted that student again, and that's what I'll talk about in the next episode. So just horrible, disheartening things to happen when you've put a lot of work into your degree show and it's sabotaged. The painting having a nail put through it and a desk shoved into it needed fixing, but the emotional toll of that happening by students is significant. The same with the platform being broken and no help being offered, and feeling alone and ill-equipped to rectify the situation would again just destroy you when you're trying to write a dissertation and write an artist statement and finish up your degree show work, with the pressure of having a final grade from this unpleasant 3-year experience, or for some students 4-year experience. And the same with the ceramic work. That student is no longer making this type of art. They're making a different type of art, and I love that they're at least being creative still, and I have hope that they will continue, because they found an online community, and that gives me a bit of hope, and I just hope that the other students have as well. The older student who does painting, I talk to from time to time, and has lost quite a bit of momentum, has reported that he was having nightmares about the school still to this day. And can you imagine being, a student in your mid to late 70s having nightmares about mistreatment in school? It's just unfathomable that would be the experience of any student, unless you are suffering immensely before even attending, whereas this is evidence that there was actual targeted harassment and bullying going on, which was overlooked, not addressed, not dealt with, and therefore it just ran rife. And really unpleasant. I don't know, I can't think of how that could be justified at all. So there we are. That is I'll show you one other thing actually. This is what I was doing around this time. I was writing a lengthy complaint about the details of everything that had happened, and this video is of me. In fact, I have two videos of me scrolling through all of these notes, all of these, it wasn't even notes, it's things that I'd written in response to all of the points that were made by the students and staff against me and the students who were in the complaints that I was trying to correct and cite evidence against the claims they had made. And I think there should be repercussions if students make a claim saying this person's a bully and they can't prove it. Then they should have a meeting to say we need to now fix this because you've called them a bully, you've not shown significant evidence. We should really have a meeting to make sure that nothing unpleasant happens past this point. And if it gets proven that what you're saying is not true, then you should get penalised for making a false claim. So we made claims that people were bullies and we showed evidence, and that was then denied or refuted or just not accepted. But there was no follow-up to say, and because you've made this claim that's quite serious, we should really have a sit down and have a series of meetings to try and fix this problem so that we can all work together professionally. When they made counterclaims and I was able to refute all of their points, there was no repercussions for that, and that was, I think, demonstrably incorrect or inaccurate. So this is a big concern for me, is that these things can happen. Legitimate complaints can be filed, and there's just no pathway for the complainant to have support or even a fair hearing when it comes to the complaint, including faculty. And the threshold appears to be so high to warrant a claim about bullying that even 4 students together with physical evidence and testimony, I'm talking photographs, written statements and videos and audio recordings of these different instances, were all just not accepted. I mean, they didn't accept video or audio as evidence, they said. They only accept written or photographic evidence, which we provided. But I would still submit video evidence and say, I know you say you don't accept this, but this is the evidence that I have, and it's legitimate. This is evidence which shows the voices, the images and the actions of these bullies. And it was all just denied. So it's really concerning that that's the reality. And not only that, I don't think we're well equipped to put in a complaint, a formal complaint or an informal complaint. I don't think students or people generally know how to do that. I didn't know how to do it, and I still wouldn't know exactly how to do it. I just think I know better than I did then. I will do an episode where I talk about how to file a complaint and how to take action when things go wrong, in my opinion, after everything that I've experienced. So that will be an episode coming up in the near future. But, as I always say, all of these stories lead to the Dirty Corner. The last episode will discuss why this podcast has been given that name. I hope you enjoyed this episode, even though they're all pretty grim. I hope it's something you appreciate, is at least me trying to communicate the reality of what me and several other students experienced. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.